It's that time of the year again. The endless Soulsborne clones and ripoffs have taken over digital storefronts, and despite having 6 flagship games to learn and pull from, the standard of quality hasn't changed. The term Dark Souls-like has become an overused buzzword that people throw onto their game description to try to make a sale. For instance, Legend of Hyperstar, which calls itself a quote, roguelike Dark Soul-like indie game, with no spaces. I guess you can lock onto dudes. I don't see it, especially not when we hard freeze 5 minutes in. Luckily, I'm a bit of an expert on the subject, so once again, I've picked a couple of actual Dark Souls clones and ripoffs for us to look at today. Unlike every clickbait article claiming that a game with an ounce of difficulty is the Dark Souls of, I don't know, farm life sim games, I've distilled it into 3 points. Number 1, checkpoint-based level ups and enemy respawns. So you sit at the bonfire, the enemy come back, that's how it go. Number 2, punishing gameplay that relies on player proficiency more than grind. And number 3, when you fight a boss, the health bar is like, AKA, it's gotta feel like a Souls-like. Typically, know when you're playing one, even if it's a clone or rip-off or something just inspired by. What could initially be derived from the 3D Zelda Z targeting system has turned into its own thing, and once again, we're gonna be talking about it. So before you tell me that I missed something, make sure you go check out that video as well. Or be patient, it's fine. So yo, it's Austin, and I'm back from the dead. I gathered enough video game currency to upgrade my upload schedule. So here we are. Also, I tried to fix my hair up more, but it's still kind of weird. I'm not used to this whole cutting your own hair thing. So let's get this video started with a Dark Souls clone that came out not too long after my original video, but one that I got a lot of requests for. Code Vein. It was only a matter of time before the publisher of Dark Souls decided to make its own Dark Souls, but with anime. And manga! Although the director, Hiroshi Yoshimura of God Eater fame, would like you to believe it's more than that. However, if you play it for like 20 seconds, it's kind of hard to think otherwise. Just replace the lonely, dark, high fantasy worlds with a post-apocalyptic one filled with gothic Lolita vampire squads with big titties, also known as the Revenants. Code Vein finds itself in an interesting place because it's tying the gameplay of a Souls-like together with the anime cutscenes and convoluted storytelling of God Eater. So you'll go through entire zones with that all too familiar progression system of killing demons, taking their droppable currency known as haze, and trying to make it to the next checkpoint without falling off a cliff. And you're probably gonna die or fall off a cliff, but don't worry, you can get back the stuff you lose. You know the spiel, it's literally the same thing. But after these zones, you'll find yourself engaged in long, fully voice-acted anime cutscenes where girls with Yushankas will ask you to help their Oni-chan. And you will. Normally, I would include a line of bad voice acting here, but they did a good job. Except when you take one of the revs into battle with you, where they essentially turn into Navi.
There's a lot of them. Don't get surrounded. It's swarming with enemies down there. Don't rush in. Looks like it isn't.
Oh, did I mention the ridiculously huge anime titties? Although, they got nothing on Guinevere. The partner system is actually one of the more interesting parts of Code Vein. Each of the main cast of characters can join you in battle, and they each have their own set of abilities that you can also unlock for yourself. Having a second person on the battlefield's a nice touch, as the co-op elements in previous Soulsborne titles was pretty limited. You can do online co-op in Code Vein, and once you're connected, you can hang out in the zone for the entire time. However, the AI is so absurdly good that you won't even need it for the base game. Why learn boss mechanics yourself when Yakumo's just gonna do it for you? He even revives you multiple times. That is when the AI is not doing things like this. Code Vein has a lot of stuff going for it, but unfortunately doesn't seem to excel at any of them. I did really like the special vestiges you can unlock, where you'll get bits of overarching narrative and development on your party members. You'll RP walk through somebody's feelings and it adds a bit of depth. It's just unfortunate that all of the characters and the story itself are just mediocre. Even the gameplay's mediocre. It doesn't have the weight of Dark Souls. It feels too fast. Even though the concept of an anime Dark Souls is appealing to a very large subset of people, Code Vein is just wildly mediocre and doesn't seal the deal, especially not with the season pass, which ended up being a bunch of reskins of content already in the game. Although similarly to God Hand 3, the character creator is on a whole different level. I was in here for like an hour, man, and I don't look like an ugly zombie when I'm done. I'm always cute anime girl. 10 out of 10. It's not 10, it's like a 7. 6.5, 6.5. So that's what happens when a publisher decides it wants to try and replicate its own success. It's kind of hard to call Code Vein a ripoff because of that, but it kind of is a clone still. It's kind of the same. But what about the games that are totally shameless about it? Now, I actually have two examples of this, one of which is good and the other is a total nightmare. But which is which, you guys can decide. First up is Mortal Shell. This one's the new kid on the block made by Cold Symmetry, a small indie developer of 15 people. Yeah, this right here, this is not Dark Souls footage you're looking at. This is though. Ah, fooled ya, still Mortal Shell. They even hold the two-handed sword the same. It's pretty shameless, and the developers are pretty aware of that. Mortal Shell is a relatively stripped down version of the Dark Souls experience. There's no armor, there's no gear to be looted. You don't even get to create a character. You're just a weird, pale flesh man with a copy of Mindjack for the 360. Instead of picking a class, you get to possess one of 4 shells, which act like different classes. None of which with a shield, because in Mortal Shell, in order to block, you gotta get hard. You gross mother. This is a cool alternative to blocking, as it's a cooldown that makes you completely impervious to all attacks and will even cause some enemies to stagger, since they're like smacking a rock. The fun part here is that you can get hard in the middle of a swing, so you can pause your attack to immediately strike after an opponent bounces off of you. It takes a bit to master, of course, since every enemy has different attack patterns, but when you get it down, it is real fun. Mortal Shell is one of the most brutally difficult starts of, I think, any game I've ever played. It takes the bare minimum tutorial approach of its fellow genre brethren, but decides to keep valuable gameplay mechanics such as parrying tucked away as unlocks. That, and the map design isn't quite as intuitive or good as Souls. In fact, I don't think it's very good. So it's not uncommon for people to get absolutely destroyed and lost over and over for a significant amount of time at the beginning, myself included. Dying in this sucks because, well, dying sucks, but also on the PlayStation 4 version, this game has some hefty loading times. You'll be sitting around for over a minute on death, and in a game where you get your butt kicked this much early on, that's no fun. But you know, you stick with it, get new abilities, slowly upgrade yourself, things start to click, and the game unfolds in front of you. And it ends up being pretty good, especially when you realize that the jumping heavy, 2x light, and backdash combo will carry you the distance. Never mind the parry bombs. One thing I really appreciated with Shell was its excellent sound design. The way my speakers would crackle whenever I turned into a rock. The sound of the footsteps were all very crisp. The game's good. It's good shit. Just really freaking hard. It may be a bit too hard, at least at the beginning. My stubby sausage fingers couldn't handle it. So there's one. Good or nightmare? Hold off on your decision though, because we have another game to talk about, Dark Sassy. It's gonna be close. Yeah, that's good, I think. Dark Sassy is, well, it's not much of a parody. It's also not much of a video game. It's one of those Steam garbage fests you see constantly. One made by a developer who seems to enjoy flipping assets and releasing a game every couple months. Dark Sassy kind of treads the meme game line, but it doesn't slip into the so bad it's good category. It's not even funny. You're some dude, you grab a book with a baby doll head on it that says Dark Sassy, you read it, the audio clips your speakers because I don't understand how to normalize audio. And then Severog from Paragon starts yelling in your face. Is this legal? Hey, remember Paragon? Well, Dark Sassy seems like an attempt at some kind of dialogue or statement about video games and Soulslike and gamers, but it's really just kind of shit. There's no feedback, there's no proper controller support, there's way too many enemies. No, there's no point in me complaining, it's just dumb. Where's the joke though? Where is it? I can't believe I'm saying this, but I miss Steam Greenlight. Well, there you go. I think it's clear what the superior game is. Where my sassy boys at? While those two are neat, I think the really interesting Dark Souls clones are the ones that take the concept and run with it to another level. The ones that take a skeleton of a different formula and then morph it into something different. Then sometimes you can take things a step further by combining elements of a previously existing franchise. A lot of people, myself especially included, were extremely excited at the prospect of a Darksiders 3, and the game that we got was something that no one expected. I've talked about Darksiders 1 and 2 before. They're both excellent 3D Zelda clones, and once upon a time were games that I thought were never gonna see a sequel again. I was so confident about it, I talked about it in this friggin' video. But well, I was wrong and stupid and ignorant and incredibly sexy. But here we are with not just Darksiders 3, but another spin-off, Darksiders Genesis, the later of which is a hidden gem for sure, but the meat of today's video is Darksiders 3. Holy crap. This time around, we play as the sole female member of the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, Fury, the Becky Lynch of the gang. The developer of the original two, Vigil Games, ended up splitting into two different studios that have each worked on different Darksiders games, Gunfire Games and Airship Syndicate. Gunfire made 3, and it has quite the mixed reception, and I'm not sure why. I know there's some technical stuff, but Darksiders 3 has a lot going for it, but a lot of that depends on how much interest you have in the world and the character Fury. Unlike Death or even War, Fury is a lot less nuanced. She's an angry girl who rapidly changes the color of her hair and is really mad.
For one final.
Grrr. But yeah, if you've played a Darksiders, you know the spiel. The world is messed up, humanity's screwed, and the Four Horsemen gotta make things straight, this time by hunting down the 7 deadly sins. And with the exception of its actual horrible performance on consoles, like the Xbox One, which is the one I'm playing it on for this video, oh my god, it loads and freezes constantly. I think it's a really solid entry into the franchise. Thank the PC version. You were already turning in the souls of the dead to Vulgrim in the Darksiders franchise, but in 3, it performs exactly like it would in a Soulsborne game. You pick up a soul here and there and can lose all of them on death, where you'll have to go back and pick them up again. The world of Darksiders 3 is a bit more condensed though, and you're able to teleport over the map via the bonfire checkpoints. Bosses are, as you would expect, tough as nails, and the game keeps up the formula of Zelda-esque progression by putting new tools and abilities throughout the world to unlock new routes and access new areas. Darksiders 3 really feels like an amalgamation of a ton of different games all becoming this Souls-like with a well-utilized budget. It's a concentrated experience. It's a game-ass game. It also helps that Fury's moveset is a lot of fun. Instead of a sword or gun, she's a very agile character who uses a whip. You unlock more and more abilities as the game moves on, and I think overall it's really well done. The combat itself falls somewhere between Dark Souls and Devil May Cry and Bayonetta, where perfect dodging will result in a brief time slowdown so you can charge in and get a good hit. As you go through the game, you unlock different auras, which not only change the color of your hair, but give you different special attacks as well. Or, you know, turn you into Samus. Why can't Metroid crawl? It has a few flaws, and a few major flaws depending on which version of the game you're playing, and it does lack a bit in depth in some areas, but having this new take on Darksiders is a really neat thing to have. It's more focused than previous games, which were definitely too ambitious at times. 2 especially had some really big worlds with a whole lot of nothing, so having this more focused game feels really good in comparison. I don't know what to say, it's a Darksiders game with a Souls twist, and I couldn't ask for anything more. Except a sequel, and maybe a third-person shooter with strife, and maybe a taco? Don't mind me, I'll wait. Okay, it might take a bit longer, so let's talk about more anime. Little Witch Nobeta is an adorable indie early access Souls-like that more than holds its own with some of the best in the genre. I originally saw this thing on some game discussion forums and thought it was some flavor of the week meme game, but after actually sitting down and messing with it for a while, I was pretty pleasantly surprised. Nobeta is a little magical girl styled witch who meets up with a black cat who is definitely not sus, not even in the slightest. She finds herself in a castle where she then fights her way through to destroy the plethora of crafted souls found within. These are like little mannequins, little floating eyeballs, and definitely not the heartless. It is in early access though, so the narrative isn't quite finished yet, but the gameplay itself is really quite something. So instead of a sword and board affair, Nobeta focuses on using spells. It still functions in the standard Dark Souls manner of checkpoint-based progression and losable currency, but it changes between melee and ranged combat. You have different spells and elements that are used as ranged attacks that consume your mana. It's like different guns. You have laser blast, you have machine gun, you have shotgun. That mana can be recharged by smacking dudes with your staff, perfect dodging, or picking up orbs. So you're battling mana management and monsters at the same time. And if you succeed and you need more mana, you can just smack the dead body. Nobeta, please stop. Each spell element has a much larger chargeable attack, which kinda reminds me of playing as V in Devil May Cry 5. While you're charging up, you can only slowly walk around, so in boss fights, you have to dodge while it's coming at you, and you're like, I got this. It's not something you see very often. I think they did a good job in channeling the spirit of a magical girl while also doing a Souls thing. Just make sure to watch your stamina bar. She a clumsy girl. If you use any items, you'll be inflicted with a curse, which will cause you to lose bits of currency with every death. So you're encouraged to try and not use items in order to minimize that number loss. Granted, you can grind up your stats relatively easy in this early access build, but the Souls-like formula hammers in with the difficulty of some enemy and boss encounters, some of which are really creative. And you want to make sure that your character's nice and buffed up and you're taking your time and dodging enemy attacks perfectly, because if you don't, they try and make you feel as bad as humanly possible. Look what you did, you monster. Little Witch Nobeta is not only extremely promising, but already really fun to play in its current state. The listing on Steam has a lot of the early access bits detailed out, so you know what's coming, and for the price, it's hard not to recommend. I'm really excited to see where this one goes. Just try not to trip. All right, let's do one more. This is Dark Souls Clones, you remember, so let's take a second to try to think of a good ripoff name. Dark Souls could be Night Spirits, Darkness Hearts, Kingdom Heart. Oh, you know what would be a good name? Vicious Gambling Agreement. See? I told you. Warned, the language of this game is translated by translators in addition to Chinese and English. If you don't like it, you can switch languages to Chinese and English. What? I'm sorry, I don't understand. I don't speak that language. Yeah, I think this is the same font as Bloody Spell. Vicious Gambling Agreement is one of those games that I literally cannot distinguish whether or not it was an earnest or meme game. It has a legit description written out on the store page. It's gotten a few patches since it was released, but then you look at the screenshots and you see whatever this is. That and the logo on the Steam page looks like it should have some Diablo flame gifs moving under it. You're like, okay, maybe it's legit, but then you play the game for literally 25 seconds and you see this man hobbling around like he's carrying something between his ass cheeks. Yo, check out my sick attack. Yeah, that's all I got. I love how hard this tries to imitate Dark Souls. Beyond the game playing almost identical to it, a lot of the UI elements are practically the same. You've got the same 3 mana health and stamina bars on the top. Even the boss health bars are the same. One of the neat things about Dark Souls was their ability to capture a dark high fantasy world and come up with all kinds of neat fictional architecture and weapon designs. Vicious Gambling Agreement was like, Master Sword with a Batarang. Done. Sword so bright and reflective it blinds the camera when you walk. Well, it's either that or walking forward into the eternal darkness. Unable to enter the dark realm. What? Okay, I'm sorry. What the hell does Vicious Gambling Agreement mean? Is that supposed to be deathmatch? After you kill any boss, it asks if you want to capture their power or forgive, and if you don't and you just murk them, your max HP increases and they explode. Well, at least until you die. Then your health is base level again. This mechanic doesn't make sense, but I'm not going to ask questions. I love that there's a bunch of barrels and stuff on the ground that you can destroy, but not with your sword. Only by Fred Durston on them. Speaking of, anytime you try to dodge roll, it will, without fail, go forward. You can't go backwards, and that makes the bosses extremely difficult because your iframes and general understanding of how the game works are very limited. It's a good thing, you can just choose them out though. For some reason, a flame tornado spawns during the first fight, so I just kited him and circles in it, and it worked. The second boss I could only beat with the help of 7 potions. My strategy of sitting on top of his head while he was confused worked for a while, but then he bust out an unblockable that killed me in 1 hit without any indication that it was any of that. That's fair. I couldn't beat the Fart Cloud Viking, so I just gave up. I have lost this Vicious Gambling Agreement, and honestly, I think we all have. This is what happens when we as a collective group of people decide that we like a video game. Imitators come out, clones come out, games like this, and Dark Sassy. Also legit, I thought I was gonna fight the Bloodstarved Beast in this room. It's basically the same arena. And well, that's all I have time for today. Our second batch of Dark Souls clones is complete. Surprisingly, there's still more than enough of these for not just one, but like multiple videos. And I know I missed a couple, and I know I can't even think of a couple, so like Neo. I know there's Neo. Let me know down in the comments if you guys think I should cover any more Dark Souls, Born Hero, clone, ripoff things in the future. Should probably start calling it a Soulslike. That's like way less words. syllables. Join me next time when my past mistakes catch up to me and I have to play Nickelodeon Kart Racers 2, the game that I accidentally willed into existence. God help me. Thank you so much for watching. Special Patreon shout out to Plasma Phoenix, Nitron, Legend Gary, Kieran Arter, Kevin Zanowski, Josh Garbage Lord, Jordy McCaffrey, Jacoby Fitzpatrick, Jeffrey Narvaez, Jay Roos, Flaming Fighter, Eli Shane Staufenecker, David Molnar, Donald Dowdy, D.A. Stevens, Cliff Pro, Christopher Olivia, Chris Shelton, and Brandon Howell. Thank you so much for your generous support. It's week 2 of weekly content. We're doing it, we rolling it out. If you want to support the channel, which helps us get videos out faster, please check out the Patreon. It helps us a lot. And there's probably gonna be 2 videos next week, so stay tuned for that. Some things just have to happen. Okay. Let us know how we're doing. I love you, and eat breakfast, please.